Everyone in town said my family's lake was cursed, but the only curse I ever knew was the greedy HOA president who tried to steal it. She called herself a visionary, but behind that word hid something darker, an obsession with taking what wasn't hers, especially when it belonged to a black family. When she built 139 luxury cabins without permission, pretending the lake was community property, she believed she had finally won. What she didn't know was that this land held history, power, and a 100-year legacy she was about to awaken. Watch until the end. Wait a second, let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more powerful and inspiring stories just like this one. I grew up on the lakes edge, where mornings smelled of pine sap and cool mist, and nights shimmered with moonlight dancing on still water. My family always said the lake remembered everything, every laugh, every struggle, every victory carved into its quiet shores. My great-grandfather had purchased the land a century earlier after being refused property closer to town. He built a modest cabin and a dam by hand, shaping a life in a place no one wanted at the time. The land became our refuge, untouched and unbothered by the world. Beyond the trees, my father taught me how to read the clouds, how the ripples predicted the weather, how the dam redirected overflow in ways only our family understood. My mother taught me the stories behind the lake's deepest point, tales about my ancestors who held tight to dignity when the world denied them everything else. When my parents passed, I inherited not just land but responsibility. The lake wasn't a scenic view, it was a legacy. My plan was simple: restore the old cabin, preserve the forest, and open small educational programs for kids who had never had access to nature. But everything changed the day the new HOA president arrived. She introduced herself with a smile too sharp to be friendly, her eyes scanning the land like she was already calculating profit margins. She praised the untapped potential of my lake. To her, it was wasted. To me, it was home. That was the beginning of the war. She didn't know she had started at first. She approached with forced politeness, asking innocent sounding questions about boundaries and access. She claimed the lake wasn't being properly utilized and suggested opening it for the community. When I firmly explained the property lines, she smiled in that tight, condescending way people do when they don't think your words matter. Within weeks, surveyors appeared. They paced along my shoreline with clipboards and tape measures, ignoring me altogether. HOA project, they said. Pre-approved. Pre-approved by whom? Indeed, not the person who actually owned the land. Soon after, construction trucks rumbled down the forest road the first time I heard them. The sound cut through the morning stillness like a violent interruption. I walked over to see workers staking bright flag markers across the trees. They told me it was just a dock, temporary, non-invasive. But within a month, the forest looked like it was being devoured whole. Foundations rose where deer once grazed. Trees older than the town were felled without hesitation. Cabins multiplied like an infection, their uniform walls and artificial charm clashing against the wild landscape my family had protected for generations. At first 10 cabins, then 30, then 80, until there were 139 cramped together like teeth biting into the shoreline. Every complaint I filed with zoning boards went missing. Every call to the sheriff was redirected. Permits surfaced out of nowhere, stamped with mysterious signatures. She sat on 3 local committees, chaired 2, and had friends in offices that seemed to exist only to rubber stamp her ambitions. To her, my objections weren't legal matters. They were inconveniences from a man she believed lacked power, authority, or the right to challenge her. She said the land had been underutilized. She said community development was more important than sentimental attachment. She even said that families like mine historically didn't know how to maintain property of this size. It was racism masked as bureaucracy, discrimination dressed up in rules she manipulated at will. The lake changed with the cabins. Tourists flooded in, blasting music that echoed into the hills. Beer cans floated in the water. Boat engines tore through the quiet currents. The wildlife vanished. Even the herons abandoned their nests. But what she didn't know, what no outsider ever noticed, was the old design beneath the lake. The hand-built dam, reinforced through generations, the floodgates were crafted not only for protection, but for a purpose. The lake could rise when needed, and someday it might rise for justice. The storm began in the afternoon, thunderheads stacking fast wind, pushing the lake into restless waves. Guests ran from cabin to cabin trying to secure loose belongings as rain poured in sheets so dense the shoreline disappeared, the cabins built cheaply and quickly shuddered under the pressure of rising water. By nightfall, the lake swelled past the tree-lined decks, dipped under water support beams, cracked. She ran. Up and down the shoreline, screaming orders that dissolved into the storm's roar, I walked toward the dam with my great-grandfathers. Journals tucked under my jacket, feeling the weight of every generation before me when I gripped the iron lever. Worn smooth by their hands, by their work, their sweat, their hope, I knew exactly what needed to be done. I opened the floodgates, nature did the rest. By morning, silence blanketed the valley, heavy, eerie, and absolute. The cabins were nothing more. Then broken timber and shattered glass scattered along the mud-soaked banks. Water had carved deep scars into the shoreline, reclaiming everything that had been stolen from it. The forest smelled like rain and renewal. She arrived with law enforcement and insurance agents pointing in every direction, blaming the storm, blaming the builders, blaming everyone but herself. But the investigation unfolded quickly. There were no legal permits, no valid environmental studies, no authorization to build on. Private land, the HOA board turned on her, instantly protecting themselves. Distancing from her, stripping her of her position before noon, investors vanished overnight, lawsuits piled higher than the rubble left behind. Her visionary project was labeled an ecological disaster, a zoning violation, and a fraudulent scheme. She became the face of reckless greed and racial discrimination, thinly disguised as development. As for me, the lake was quiet again. Wildlife slowly returned, the water settled back into its steady rhythm as though relieved the fight was over. I stood at the edge of the dam, reading the last lines of my great-grandfather's journal. This land is ours, not because it was given, but because we protected it. This wasn't just a battle over property. It was a confrontation with a history that had tried again and again to erase people like us from the places we built. My family fought back with strength, patience, and knowledge passed through generations, and in the end, legacy proved stronger than greed. But I still wonder how many more families will have to defend what is rightfully theirs. How many more times will history repeat itself before people learn to respect not just the land, but the people who live on it? Tell me, which country and city are you watching from? Take care.